Chapter 17. Dr. Alan Bloom and Jack Crawford sat on folding chairs, the only furniture left in Crawford's office.
The cupboard is bare, Doctor. Dr. Bloom studied Crawford's Simon face and wondered what was coming. Behind Crawford's grousing and his Alka-Seltzers, the doctor saw an intelligence as cold as an X-ray table. Where did Will go? He'll walk around and cool off, Crawford said. He hates lounge.
Did you think you might lose Will after Lecter published his home address? That he might go back to his family?
For a minute I did. It shook him.
Understandably, Dr. Bloom said.
Then I realized he can't go home, and neither can Molly and Willie. Never. Until the Tooth Fairy is out of the way.
You met Molly?
Yeah, she's great. I like her. She'd be glad to see me in hell with my back broken, of course. I'm having to duck her right now.
She thinks you're using Will?
Crawford looked at Dr. Bloom sharply. I've got some things I have to talk to him about. We'll need to check with you. When do you have to be at Quantico?
Not until Tuesday morning. I put it off.
Dr. Bloom was a guest lecturer at the behavioral section of the FBI Academy. Graham likes you. He doesn't think you run any mind games on him, Crawford said. Bloom's remark about using Graham stuck in his craw.
I don't. I wouldn't try, Dr. Bloom said. I'm as honest with him as I'd be with a patient.
Exactly.
No, I want to be his friend, and I am. Jack, I owe it to my field of study to observe. Remember, though, when you asked me to give you a study on him, I refused.
That was Peterson upstairs, wanted the study.
You were the one who asked for it, no matter. If I ever did anything to Graham, if there were ever anything that might be of therapeutic benefit to others, I'd abstract it in a form that would be totally unrecognizable. If I ever do anything in a scholarly way, it'll only be published posthumously.
After you or after Graham?
Dr. Bloom didn't answer. One thing I've noticed, I'm not curious about, but I am now. You're never alone in a room with Graham, are you? You're smooth about it, but you're never one-on-one with him. Why is that? Do you think he's psychotic? Is that it?
No. He's an eidetic. He has a remarkable visual memory, but I don't think he's psychic. He wouldn't let dude test him. It doesn't mean anything, though. He hates to be prodded and poked. So do I.
But
Will wants to think of this as purely an intellectual exercise, and in the narrow definition of forensics, that's what it is. He's good at that, but there are other people just as good, I imagine.
Not many, Crawford said. What he has, in addition, is pure empathy and projection, Dr. Bloom said. He can assume your point of view or mine. and maybe some other points of view that scare and sicken him. It's an uncomfortable gift, Jack. Perception's a tool that's pointed on both ends.
Why aren't you ever alone with him?
Because I have some professional curiosity about him, and he'd pick up on that in a hurry. He's fast.
If he caught you peeking, he wouldn't snatch down on the shades.
An unpleasant analogy, but yes, accurate. You've had sufficient revenge now, Jack. We can get to the point. Let's make it short. I don't feel very well.
A psychosomatic manifestation, probably, Crawford said.
Actually, it's my gallbladder. What do you want?
I have a medium where I can speak to the tooth fairy.
The Tattler,
Dr. Bloom said. Right. Do you think there's any way to push him in a self-destructive way by what we say to him?
Pushing to suicide?
Suicide would be fine with me.
I doubt it. In certain kinds of mental illness, that might be possible. Here, I doubt it. If he were self-destructive, he wouldn't be so careful. He wouldn't protect himself so well. If we were dealing with a classic paranoid schizophrenic, you might be able to influence him to blow up and be visible. You might even get him to hurt himself. I wouldn't help you, though.
Suicide was Bloom's mortal enemy. No, I suppose you wouldn't, Crawford said. Could we arrange him?
Why do you want to know? To what purpose?
Let me ask you this. Could we enrage him and focus his attention?
He's already fixed on Graham as his advisory. And you know it. Don't fool around. You decided to stick Graham's neck out, haven't you?
I think I have to do it. It's that or he gets his feet sticky on the 25th. Help me.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Advice. That's all I'm asking.
I don't mean from me, Dr. Bloom said. What you're asking from Graham. I don't want you to misinterpret this, and normally I wouldn't say it, but you ought to know. What do you think one of Will's strongest drives is?
Crawford shook his head.
It's fear, Jack. The man deals with a huge amount of fear.
Because he got hurt?
No, not entirely. Fear comes with imagination. It's a penalty. It's the price of imagination.
Crawford stared at his blunt hands folded on his stomach. He reddened. It was embarrassing to talk about it. Sure. It's what you don't ever mention on the big boy's side of the playground, right? Don't worry about telling me he's afraid. I won't think he's not a stand-up guy. I'm not an asshole, Doctor.
I never thought you were, Jack.
I wouldn't put him out there if I couldn't cover for him. Okay. If I couldn't cover for him 80%. He's not bad himself. Not the best, but he's quick. Will you help us stir up the tooth fairy, Doctor? A lot of people are dead.
Only if Graham knows the entire risk ahead of time and assumes it voluntarily. I have to hear it from him.
I like you, Doctor. I never bullshit him. No more than we all bullshit each other.
Crawford found Graham in the small workroom near Zeller's lab, which he had commemorated and filled with photographs and personal papers belonging to the victims. Crawford waited until Graham put down the law enforcement bulletin he was reading.
Let me fill you in on what's up for the 25th. He didn't have to tell Graham that the 25th would bring the next full moon. When he does it again. Yeah, if we have a problem on the 25th. Not if, when. Both times it's been on Saturday night. Birmingham, June 28th, a full moon falling on a Saturday night. It was July 26th in Atlanta. That's one day short of a full moon, but also Saturday night. This time, the full moon falls on a Monday, August 25. He lacks the weekend though, so we're ready from Friday on. Ready? We're ready? Correct. You know how it is in the textbooks. The ideal way to investigate a homicide. I never saw it done that way. Graham said, it never works out that way. No, hardly ever. It'd be great to be able to do it though. Send one guy in, just one. Let him go over the place. He's wide and dictating all the time. He gets the place absolutely cherry for as long as he needs. Just him, just you. A long pause. What are you telling me? Starting the night of Friday, the 22nd, we have a Grumman Gulfstream standing by at Andrews Air Force Base. I borrowed it from Interior. The basic lab stuff will be on it. We stand by. Me, you, Zella, Jimmy Price, photographer, and 2 people to do interrogations. Soon as the call comes in, we're on our way. Anywhere in the east or south, we can be there in an hour and 15 minutes. What about the locals? They don't have to cooperate. They won't wait. We're blanketing the chiefs of police and sheriff's departments. Every one of them. We're asking orders to be posted on the dispatches councils and the deputy officer's desk. Graham shook his head. Balls. They'd never hold them off. They couldn't. This is what we're asking. It's not so much. We're asking that when a report comes in, the first officers at the scene go in and look. Medical personnel go in and make sure nobody's left alive. They come back out. Roadblocks, interrogations, go on any way they like, but the scene, that's sealed off until we get there. We drive up, you go in, you're wired. You talk it out to us when you feel like it. Don't say anything when you don't feel like it. Take as long as you want. Then, we'll come in. The locals won't wait. Of course they won't. They'll send in some guys from homicide. But the request will have some effect. It'll cut down on traffic in there, and you'll get it fresh. Fresh. Graham tilted his head back against his chair and stared at the ceiling. Of course, Graham, Crawford said. We'll still got 13 days before the weekend. Oh, Jack. Jack what? Crawford said. You kill me. You really do. I don't follow you. Yes, you do. What you've done, you've decided to use me for bait because you don't have anything else. You, before you even popped the question, you pumped me up about how bad next time will be. not bad psychology, to use on a fucking idiot. What did you think I'd say? You worried I don't have the onions for it since that with Lecter? No. I wouldn't blame you for wondering. We both know it happened too. I don't like walking around in a 𝘠𝘁𝘁𝘵 vest with my butt puckered up. But hell, I'm in it now. We can't go home as long as he's loose.
I never doubted you'd do it.
Graham saw this was true. It's something more, isn't it? Crawford said nothing. No, Molly, no way. Jesus, well, even I wouldn't ask you that. Graham stared at him for a moment. Oh, for Christ's sake, Jack. You've decided to play ball with Freddie Lowndes, haven't you? You and little Freddie have a deal cut. Crawford frowned at a spot on his tie. He looked up at Graham. You know yourself it's the best way to bait him. The Tooth Fairy's gonna watch 𝘱𝑚. What else have we got? It has to be Lowndes doing it. He's got the corner on the 𝘱𝑚. So I really badmouth the Tooth Fairy in the 𝘱𝑚, and then we give him a shot. You think it's better than the mail drop? Don't answer that, I know it is. Have you talked to Bloom about it?
Just in passing. We're both getting together with him and Lowndes. We'll run the mail drop on him at the same time.
What about the setup? I think we'll have to give him a pretty good shot at it. Something open, someplace where he can get close. I don't think he'd snipe. He might fool me, but I can't see him with a rifle.
We'll have still watches on the high places.
They were both thinking the same thing. Kevlar body armor would stop the Tooth Fairy's 9mm and his knife unless Graham got in the face. There was no way to protect him against a headshot if a hidden rifleman got the chance to fire. You talk to Lowndes. I don't have to do that. He needs to interview you, Will, Crawford said gently. He has to take your picture. Bloom had warned Crawford he'd have trouble on that point.